Somewhere I saw an album cover and there was a sticker on it that said, "This music must be played loud." And that's exactly what we're going to do today on this episode of River City Presents, where I feature the band YoKy. Welcome to River City Presents. My name's Daniel Hurt. We're doing something a little different this time. We are shooting on location at Loud and Clear Studios, also in Paducah. We want to thank Shelby Preklas and Randall Griggs for allowing us to use this space. One of the things we wanted to do was highlight local artists that are doing a lot of really interesting things, and today is no exception. On the show today, we're going to be having music from YoKy, which is a fusion punk band. They have very different sound for what we've had on the show thus far, but they're all my friends. First on the show, though, we're going to be featuring the frontman, Castleman, and Travis Russell of YoKy. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, it means a lot to me that you're all willing to do this, and it's cool that we're doing an on-location thing, and it's really exciting. But first, let's just get started. Where did you all, tell us about how you all got started? You all formed? How did the band get started?
Well, I've been playing bass in bands around town for probably nearly a decade. And during COVID, Zach and I work with the same coffee shop in Paducah. We work at Etc.
Etc. Coffee House. Been on the show before.
Yeah. I bought a drum set from a guy in Illinois, just sort of bored, no work, getting that unemployment benefits, and I thought, what better way to celebrate than to get into a new instrument? So I bought a drum set, and then Zach here said, "Let's start a band," and I was like, "Well, got to learn now. I'm in a band." So.
Yeah. So what was it like during COVID, getting together and playing music? I'm sure it was difficult. There's no live scene anymore. Did you all do live streams or just a lot of rehearsal for post-COVID life? Or
It was a lot of just playing together. To see if anything would even really work, and things actually ended up working so well that we just kind of kept bringing in more folks. Like we brought Randall and Josh in, because originally it was just me and Travis and Jacob, and that kind of had the idea to do a band. And
yeah, let's run through that real quick. Who plays what?
So I sing, Travis plays drums, then we have Jacob McCallon who plays bass, we have Josh Massey who plays guitar and regular guitar occasionally whenever he chooses, and Randall Griggs on lead guitar.
How does guitar work for those who may not know? What is that exactly?
It's just a giant guitar-shaped keyboard that you play and make cool sounds on.
We'll be seeing that soon enough.
If you've ever seen Bootsy Collins live,
Yes.
Oh,
you've
yeah,
probably
that's
seen
exactly
a guitar
right.
or George Clinton.
Yeah.
But you guys have been involved. You've been in the music scene quite some time. I believe you have too. So you were in, let's start with you, but talk about the music that you did before we got to YoKy.
So Jacob McCallon, who plays bass in this band, like Zach said, we've been playing music since we were middle schoolers at Heath, and we play in a band called Art Thieves together. We've been doing
remember.
That. Yeah, we've been doing that probably, since 2015.
I got to introduce you all at your first
show. Yeah, it was Bernie Sanders benefit.
It sure was.
Yeah. It was it was 7 years ago or so. Yeah, and so we had another punk band called Day Waster that we played with for about 3 years. Ended right before COVID, right during the very beginning of COVID or before. And so we had that relationship already. And Randall Griggs, was extremely prolific artist, graphic designer, and he did all of the album covers for Art Thieves, and so I knew him from that relationship. And Josh Massey also works at the same coffee shop as me and Zach, so it was just sort of a synchronicity that it all came together like that.
What about you? You said Day Waster before we taped. You said Day Waster was really how you sort of became inspired, right?
Yeah, to give even music anything a run. I've kind of been loosely around the local scene since I was about 16, 17 years old, just attending and doing, the normal show kid thing, hanging out, meeting people. And then eventually Day Waster started up, and as an adult I started kind of going back to shows more. And at the time when that band was playing, it was what I needed to hear. It was fast, it was hard, it was different, and it felt like the exact type of environment and music that Paducah needs and the area needs, and I think the world needs more. And so I went to every show that was anywhere close to me and was very sad when they stopped making music.
And then you guys just sort of linked up along the way. You got a job at Etc. You knew one of the owners of Etc., Tony Little, because you're both from Tennessee, right?
Yep, West Tennessee. He was in the original group of people that I would come up from West Tennessee to hear in our little caravan, whatever's of multiple cars to come see the Wish You Were's and bands like Teenage Rehab, Middle Class Trash, back when they were playing Casey Hall and all those places.
So let's get to the stuff you got going on now. So YoKy, y'all kind of a jam band, kind of a punk rock band, kind of a little bit of everything. So how would you describe your sound? I'm asking the 1960s question. How do you think you would describe the kind of music that you're doing for the kids?
I think the crucial thing with YoKy is that it's a hardcore punk band first and foremost. It's fast, it's heavy, it's hard, it's hollered. But at the same time, we're all super into funk, especially Josh, who plays guitar, obviously. It would make sense that he's into funk and plays guitar. But Zach and I are both into like avant-garde jazz. We're both really into, John Coltrane, Thelonious Monk, a lot of the 40s, 50s, 60s kind of real experimental music. And that's kind of the spirit that the band has, is we have a lot of sections of our songs that are completely improv. They build, they crescendo, they decline in energy,
It's kind of longer sets.
Longer sets. Some of our songs stretch into 8-9 minutes just from us just sort of having a good time on stage, and just based on the energy or whatever in the band's feeling, we kind of just explore that and keep going,
That was kind of always one of the rules, was if it's not fun, we're not going to play it. So if it's fun, play it. And that's worked out for us.
I like that actually, that's something that I've always said. One of my favorite movies is Mr. Holland's Opus, and he's teaching her how to play clarinet, and he says, you're thinking too hard. It's supposed to be just some folks having fun, and so you're basically saying that is essentially you're enjoying it thoroughly.
Well, I feel like people who come to shows connect with that more. Like there's people who maybe necessarily aren't into screamed vocals. They're not into the harsh vocals. They're not into like the intensity of it. But they come to see us because they like the energy of it. They can tell that we're having fun. They kind of just ride the wave with us at shows, So
and that's something I've seen you all play live before at Paducah Beer Works, but I will say that one of the more interesting things is you have this thing with honey. So talk about that. Does it help with your vocals because you're out there so loud and doing it?
So it all started because I have no idea how to technically scream. I mean, nowadays with all the different genres of heavy music, you hear all sorts of different screams, growls, gutturals, everything, an entire range, and they're all better than me. So all I've got is the ability to scream as hard as I can and try to pitch it a certain way and make it sound cool. And that kind of is really rough on the throat.
Yeah.
So honey really does just coat it, make it not as bad. And just help give me a little oomph for another song or whatever I need to do.
I got it. Yeah, and you have long sets, so you got time in between while they're playing their instrumental solos.
Precisely.
You can slide over there and get stuff.
Yeah.
Now, you all have a record coming out in the spring sometime, right? Lowertown Carbomb is the name of it. Tell us a little bit about the new record coming out.
The album cover comes from when at Etc. at the coffee shop we were running drive-through only during COVID. We didn't have any sort of inside business, and I guess someone at the apartment complex across the street from us had wired a Chrysler 350 the wrong way from what I heard, and the whole thing went up in flames. And so it was like, it was.
I actually think I remember this.
Yeah, it was a very like sort of fire and brimstone scene. It was just raining rubber on the street and on top of the building and on people's cars in the drive-through. And
Mark's still there on the pavement.
The mark's there on the pavement.
Yeah, it's still there. Also, it should be noted, Levi McDuffie is the original photo taker of that photo.
Absolutely.
I promised him whenever I
He's our
originally
boss,
saw it,
so.
and he's our boss. I was like, I'll give you credit and $5 whole for your effort. But
Levi, you heard it here. Thanks, man, for the album.
thanks, Levi. Appreciate it, buddy.
We recorded it over the course of a weekend here at Loud and Clear.
Yeah.
Which is sort of where
Shelby and Randall studio.
Yeah, all of my bands have recorded here. Shelby's the man. He's instrumental to the scene.
So everything from all parts of production's done right here where we're at. So we're recording where home is.
Recording, mixed, mastered, and all the graphic design, all the artwork, all the inserts are made here.
And Randall, you said Randall Griggs designed the album art, right?
He did, yeah. So he took the original picture of it and added sort of the graphics up top and just sort of made it aesthetic looking.
So tell us a little bit about you're the lead songwriter and everything that's going on. So tell us a little bit about the themes of the record. I know there's some political stuff in there. Is there some personal as well? Or tell me a little bit.
So, in general, the whole first album is, to me, it felt like, the pressure cooker letting out the steam and letting the pressure out for the first time, because we're all pretty varied human beings. It's not all angry. We're not all angry all the time, but this is a pretty angry record. And so this is pure catharsis, us getting things out. And for songwriting, for me, a lot of that was dealing with, personal things going on, loss of loved ones, personal struggles with addiction or, emotional problems, anxiety. As far as the political side, the song Riot Pass was definitely written on the day of January 6th. And that was because it was right on the back of the Black Lives Matter movement and marches, and me seeing kind of kids get shot in the face for kneeling in the street.
Right.
And then a bunch of very well-off folks go and decide they're going to invade the White House because that's a good idea, and Fox News full coverage, and it just kind of...
A little bit of a double standard, maybe.
Exactly, yeah, and that's why it's... there's a lyric in the song where it's talking about a weekend revolutionary, and that's what that felt like to me, was people who talk a lot of big game, you know what I mean, on lots of things, and then they had, oh, well, that's not right, they shouldn't be doing this, they can't protest this way, and then go and do that. So it was kind of a direct response call to that. It just...
calling out the armchair warriors, so...
Yeah, the hypocrisy in a way.
I think with the COVID pandemic, the country's gone through this collective trauma that it hasn't dealt with in a healthy way overall. I think that's why you see a lot more violence, especially with gun culture, and every day there's a mass shooting, school shooting, and so a lot of anger does build up. And so I think the kind of music that we play has a tendency to get shoehorned as angry music or as violent music or whatever, but it's more of a response to that and more of like an outward reflection of it.
You think it's an expression of just sort of pent up?
It's an expression of how powerless that most people in this country feel towards that. I mean, it's a sense of powerlessness. It's a sense of being stuck in place, and it's sort of a release of angst. And so, in my mind, the music we make is not angry, but I know from the outside it seems like it is because.
Well, it's just your way of expressing your feelings,
sure,
and your thoughts toward the state of the country and where we're at as a society. And I think that your assessment, personally, on a personal note, is true, that there are a lot of people that feel powerless, and there are a lot of people who feel like that maybe their vote doesn't matter, but it should matter. And I think that, you all doing what you do is sort of allowing the audience to connect with and say, I also think so as well.
And my hope is that people listen to it and they don't feel as alone about it, that it's okay to be upset with the way things are.
Now you've traveled to tri-state area, right? You've played Nashville and other spots as well, right? So tell us a little bit about what it's like to be on the road. How has it been performing?
Oh, it's a blast, man. It's a blast. We did a couple-day run with some friends of Randall's who live in Bloomington, and a friend of theirs band who they were touring with in Nashville. So it's like all three of us going out, and being on the road's fun. It's always a test of your true talent as a band to play out of town, because there's not the people that locally there to gas you up.
Yeah.
You have to really show them your merit.
How has that been? Have you been well received in places like Nashville? You always enjoy the crowds?
Oh yeah. I like playing farther. I like the farther north I go, the more the more wild and gnarly the crowd is. Yeah.
I think that's fascinating, because you all played Beerworks, especially in town. I mean, that's sort of like the place that I've seen.
Beerworks is the biggest supporter of heavier music.
Big shout out, to Paducah Beerworks for that, for sure.
I always thought it's sort of like the political world. I think a lot of people have an assumption of what it's like to do work-life balance and to do traveling and all the things that goes into doing the political stuff. But then, you have the other things that maybe they don't anticipate. So tell me, do you think it's fair that there are a lot of people that don't really understand what it's like, all the work-life balance that has to go into being in a band and traveling and working and managing your relationships and all that, right? It's stressful, but worth it.
Oh yeah, I mean, because at the end of the day, there's not a ton of money there's not, pockets aren't getting lined here. You know, this is truly something that we want to do, and we believe in it enough to take it on the road and in front of people that don't necessarily know us. Because once you do play a few shows for your friends and do some performances or whatever, and then you realize, okay, so my friends like me, are we actually worth anything? And we're lucky enough that when we've gone out, we've been really well received and met with nothing but love so far. So, but it can be hard. We're lucky enough that we all work together, so
Schedules can align themselves.
yeah, schedules can align themselves. Yeah, and we work for a really good business that allows us to all three be in a band and take time and do whatever we need to, and practice above the coffee shop, which is very nice.
Yes, absolutely.
I think being meeting up once a week, being in a band with these guys is it's therapeutic. It really is a way for all of us to get. It's more, if anything, sometimes it's more of just a vessel for all of us to get together and hang out a couple hours a week. Because you stay so busy with everything else, you're gonna have time to see your friends. So you know.
I completely understand that coming from a world where your schedule doesn't exist. You know,
Exactly.
just
Yeah. It's.
But so your record's coming out in the spring. Do you have a date on that, or anything's coming out next year?
February 25th.
February 25th, 2023.
2023,
Lowertown
yeah.
Carbomb.
Lowertown Carbomb.
Is it going to be streaming on
Yeah,
Spotify?
we'll have a release show for it on that date. We'll have CDs. We'll possibly tossing back and forth vinyl. I don't know if the expense is.
Oh, you
got to
do it. I
It's
want
pretty.
one.
It's intense. But,
We want one too.
I want a promotional copy so I can bring it on and like hold it up.
Oh, we'll get you one. Yeah. You don't have to worry about that. But it'll be on all streaming platforms. You can imagine.
Well-
even Deezer. We'll have it on Deezer.
Let's have it on Bandcamp.
Have it on It'll be on Bandcamp. We'll have a merch website set up on Bandcamp too. So,
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, on a personal note, we're about out of time, but on a personal note, I just want to thank you all for coming on the show. I mean, you're all friends of mine, the whole band. I know everybody. And you know, when I thought having a full band on and doing it on location at Loud and Clear, I couldn't think of a band I wanted more on. So I appreciate you all. I'm glad you.
Thank you, Daniel.
Absolutely, of course. And now we're going to break away for a few minutes, and you're going to play some songs off of Lowertown Carbomb, and then we'll be back to close out the show. All right. We'll be right back. Welcome back to River City Presents. It's my honor to introduce my friends, YoKy.
I am set to light the ground as the beetle goes his rounds. Follow now the beetle's hum. Little wanderer, stubborn decision struggle. Just
that's our show. YoKy, local band in Paducah, Lowertown Carbomb will be out next spring. We hope you enjoyed the show. We'll see you next time.